All right, well, hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Sir Cools a Lot. So today we are reviewing a mini medicine refrigerator product. I believe the manufacturing company is called Yuyao, and this product is sold online or relabeled and repackaged and sold by a number of different branding companies. I'll share a little bit more about those details later. A little bit hard to figure out exactly the original manufacturer for this product, but in any case, this is what it looks like visually. This product is interesting because I was looking into a possible solution for some of the longer range trips that I have to do once in a while. And so these are trips that may need about 1 or 2, maybe even more months of medicine product storage and transportation capabilities. And so this one kind of caught my attention because it has quite a large storage container element within it. So let's jump on in and take a look. Of course, here are my disclaimers. I have no product sponsorship. I'm simply on a personal quest here to find the best travel coolers for my personal needs. And so I hope you find the information that I'm sharing today informative and helpful for your personal journeys and quests. Of course, the travel scenarios that interest me are shorter within the state trips, longer across the country, USA trips, and then, of course, international trips, mainly to Europe at this point, but sometimes Asia as well. So this is just some of the online stock photos of the product. I'll feel free to kind of pause the video at this point if you want to read this all in detail. I actually have a video that comes up in a minute, so you can kind of take a look at it a little bit more closely. And then just a couple more of the online stock videos, the advertisements for this product, and the various points of interest. Actually, really, what it boils down to is this: there are, I think, three or four things that are really of interest to me. The first one is that it has a large storage capacity. The second one is it actually does claim that it can provide very precise temperature control from 32 to 64 Fahrenheit when powered on, or a slightly higher temperature control of 39 to 64 when powered by a battery. And then on the battery mode, or when powered, it can last quite a long time, and it's claiming that it can keep your medicine cool for up to 6 hours with an environmental or ambient temperature of 95 degrees with the included battery. That 6 hours is actually not that long of a time in terms of battery power based on all of the different testing that I have done, but anyway, this is the battery that you get with this product, so it is what it is. But actually you can replace this battery with an external battery pack that allows the product to run a lot longer. Of interest, during the testing, what I discovered was the reason why the temperature claim shifts a little bit when plugged in versus with the battery is because the battery unit actually gets a little bit hot, and the heat from the battery affects the overall sort of ability of or the overall temperature of the container. It kind of warms it up just a little bit. So I thought that was quite interesting to see that. So, as I mentioned, this product is resold by a number of, let's call them branding companies, or I think they're like import manufacturers of Chinese products. And so there's a number of them on Alibaba here. There's Badu, Xiamen, and there's different versions of it. And then, as I said, I think the manufacturer is actually Yuyao, but I'm not 100% sure. This product sells for quite a steep price within the US on eBay and also Amazon. I've seen it hovering in the the 100s to maybe in as high as even $200 range. But you can see here the original manufacturing costs of this are in the sort of the 25 to maybe $25 a piece range, and so you can get good prices here if you do large orders and you're a bulk reseller. So that's sort of just to give you an idea of the original manufacturing cost versus the reseller cost that you might see on Amazon. So this is I ordered a generic sort of product from Amazon, and this is what I got. I got a basic box. It was all kind of in Chinese. The instructions are in Chinese as well as the labeling. And so yeah, this is just to give you a sort of an idea of what it looks like. Some of the reseller products, of course, will translate all of this into English for the customer convenience of that. All right, so this is a kind of a video to look at this product a little bit more closely and carefully. So here you can kind of see the unpowered unit just sitting on my testing table with the included power cable and supply that came with it. So when you open it up, you can kind of see it's got this sort of tray that sits on the upper level of the container. When you angle it to the side, you can kind of see the inside of the container, and there's a little screw that you might notice there on one of the back plates. Make note of that. That back plate there is the plate that provides the cooling to the container. The rest of the walls do not provide cooling. They're more just part of the container. But that back plate there that you saw earlier with the screw in it is the one that actually gets quite cool. You can kind of see how the handle works there. The handle fits snug when you fold it on the upper side, but it doesn't fit on the lower side. There you can see the battery compartment with the included cable to attach the battery. It's a custom battery, not an off-the-shelf battery. So just keep that in mind. There's a little plug for the power port on the side. You can actually hook in an external USB power port to that plug if you want to, rather than plugging it in the wall. So I played around with that quite extensively, and any of the USB power banks that you might have are likely to work just fine there in terms of being able to plug into the power bank and power the unit versus plugging it to the wall. All right, so now I'm actually just going to plug it in to the wall. You can kind of see it activating and coming on. So the control system's not very complicated. You've just got an up and down button set to increase or decrease the temperature. The little refrigeration button, basically when you press that, it simply resets the setting to, I think it's 8 Fahrenheit is the default setting. Sorry, 8 centigrade. So the default setting is 8. Like you see that there. When I pressed it, it went to 8. And then the little temperature control buttons you can use to adjust to the temperature that you want to target. So it goes down to like 2 degrees centigrade. And so you can kind of select what the optimal temperature is there. In the testing, I noticed that the 2 degree centigrade setting seems to yield around about the 38 Fahrenheit zone, and so there isn't. It didn't seem to be extremely precise in being able to tell you what the internal core temperature of the container is. The power button basically you press and hold it to switch it off, or kind of press it on to switch it on. There is a little battery indicator as well, which sits to the side. I didn't test in detail how good that battery indicator was at actually telling you how much charge is left on the internal battery. So just a heads up, I didn't actually test that. Okay, so let's keep going. So here we're going to spend a little bit of time just looking at the storage capacity. So on the left side here we've got some zepbound pens, and then on the right side here we got some wegovy pens. I actually only had 4 wegovy pens on hand, but can still kind of play around with it. You can basically fit 4 wegovy pens in the tray, or if you remove the tray and sort of align the wegovy pens, you can basically fit 4 wegovy pens along the bottom, and then you can probably stack about 3 rows of that height-wise, so giving you probably around 12 total pens that can fit. The zepbound pens on the left side are a little bit trickier, because they, of course, those pens have the triangle base, which creates a little bit of a challenge with sort of stacking them. But if you you can comfortably sit 6, but if you actually very carefully jigsaw them into position, I was playing around, you can actually fit 8 zepbound pens in that drawer and close the lid. Now the upper tray is quite thin, so when you put zepbound pens in the upper tray, the base cap of the pen is too wide, and so it kind of sticks out above the tray, and so you can't actually you cannot close the lid of the container if you use the included tray and put the pens in the tray. So that sort of gives you a little bit of an idea of how much kind of space you get. All right, so I hope you found that interesting. So to summarize there, you can get 12 wegovy pens in the container, or 6 zepbound pens comfortably. But if you're good with puzzles, you can actually fit 8 zepbound pens in position. All right, let's keep going. So now I'm going to be digging into, let's see how this does in terms of temperature performance. So this was quite maybe a more complex cooling system to test, because it's quite a large container. So what I tried to do here was to test the temperatures on the lower chamber, or the lower section of the container, and then also the upper section of the container. And because the cooling plate of this product was only on one side, I used a number of temperature probes to also test what the temperatures were at different positions relative to the cooling plate, to see how stable or variant the temperature is. So here you can kind of basically see the setup of all of the different probes. I used 6 temperature probes within the container, and I used 2 temperature probes within the incubator unit that I use, as well as there's actually a temperature hub that also sits in the incubator unit. So let's keep on going. So one thing that was interesting about the testing journey, so I actually tested this product for several weeks. I started the testing in December and ran testing all the way through into January. So I had this unit running for maybe eight or more weeks continuously. What I'd noticed is during some of the pre-testing that I did before I started the main test, every week or two, there was quite a lot of water condensation that collected within the unit, and so I noted that as being potentially an item of concern in relation to quite a kind of a puddle was growing at the bottom of the container, and the possibility of that damaging medicine or creating a little bit of a bacterial type problem was something that sort of came to mind with that. So I wanted to quickly share that as something to be aware of. Alright, so next we can take a look at the money shot of this presentation, which is all the data. So I actually collected a substantial amount of data to really take a look at what was possible with this product. So feel free to pause the video at this point and spend a little bit of time looking at this graph. Maybe to say a few kind of key points or points of interest. So there is definitely a temperature gradient that occurs with this product. So when your product or your temperature probes are very close to the cooling plate, so on the lower part of the container, close to the cooling plate, that's where the temperature is the most sustained and stable and reliable. Even on the lower shelf, when you measure the temperature on the opposite side of the cooling plate, still on the lower container, there's about a 5 or so degrees Fahrenheit difference in the temperature between those zones. And then as you move upwards to the upper section of the container, the temperature increases more and more and more when compared to the base claimed temperature of the unit. So actually when the unit is operating under ideal conditions and the temperature of the lower part of the container is around 38 Fahrenheit, the upper part of the container actually can be as high as 46 Fahrenheit, maybe more. So almost a 10 Fahrenheit difference, depending on where you're positioning your measurement relative to the cooling plate within the container. So of course this part's under ideal conditions. When you look at this graph here, you'll see probes 7, probe 6 and the temperature hub are measuring the ambient temperature of the incubator chamber. So when I start to sort of temperature stress test the unit, a lot of important things happen. So the lower temperature, the lower container temperature actually can maintain stability even when the ambient temperature is as high as maybe sort of 85, 90, let's go with 90 Fahrenheit before it starts to lose its ability to stay below 46. But of course when you increase the ambient temperature, the upper container temperature will go above 46 very quickly, because it's only barely able to stay at 46 even under the ideal conditions. So very, very quickly, under any temperature condition where the ambient temperature is above sort of 65 Fahrenheit or more, the upper section of the container is basically goes above 46 Fahrenheit, so it no longer is able to store your medicine at the ideal temperature for longer term storage. So very, that's the sort of a very quick tour of this data set. But hopefully you kind of get the essence of the idea, which is that really this cooler is it does well when the medication is in the lower section of the container and quite close to the cooling plate. But as you get further away from the cooling plate, or you start to use the upper shelf or whatever, quite quickly you start running into problems with being able to store your medicine at the optimal cooling temperatures for storage. Now, of course, if you're just sort of storing your medicine more temporarily for like 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, and you're not so concerned about the long-term storage temperatures, then perhaps there might be windows of opportunities. But definitely proceed with caution here, that there is quite a significant variability of temperature control depending on, I don't even know if we can use the word temperature control, but variability of temperature depending on where the product is located within the container. And then, of course, as you start to stress test this unit, there's only a small zone in the lower section of the container that is able to sustain temperatures below 46 degrees Fahrenheit under the more stressful ambient temperature conditions. So very interesting to kind of see what was possible with this particular product. So that's really a wrap for this particular unit. So I would say overall, I don't think I would consider using this product for my particular travel needs, and there's sort of several competing reasons for this. As I mentioned, there's only a small zone in the container. So that's the lower shelf closest to the freezer conduction plate, that it's actually able to stay sufficiently cool even when operating in higher temperature, ambient temperature environments, such as 90, 95 Fahrenheit or so. The upper shelf is barely able to stay cool to 46 under ideal conditions, which is like 65 Fahrenheit or below, and then it just basically doesn't work beyond that. And so be very careful and cautious about that upper shelf. And so actually losing the upper shelf as a longer term storage option significantly reduces the capabilities of this product for storing large amounts of product for long periods of time. You sort of lose about half the capacity, basically. I didn't like how it had high water condensation that basically created a puddle every week or so that you used it, and so the questions around that are pretty obvious around could that create damage to one of your injector pens, or perhaps be a bit of a bacterial infection risks. I don't know, but I wasn't quite happy about that. As I mentioned, the temperature variation within the container, depending on what location you're measuring, is as much as 8 to 10 Fahrenheit. So I thought that was pretty excessive. On the plus side, there was quite a lot of room to store product. However, it's unfortunate that room is not fully usable for long-term storage needs because of the lack of consistency and reliability of its ability to keep temperature. The product overall, I think, was made of fairly poor material in sort of insulation-wise. As you increased the ambient temperature, actually the cooling case got kind of almost was absorbing heat rather than reflecting it, so it was warm to the touch. And I think the cooling system was basically not powerful enough for this particular mini fridge. The case seemed to kind of be a little bit overwhelming for it in terms of absorbing heat versus reflecting it. And so perhaps if they wanted to improve this design, I think improving its sort of insulation factor would be highly valuable, making the temperature within the container more consistent throughout, maybe using some thermal conduction sort of rods or cases like aluminium. I don't know, might help, but in any case, I don't know if they'll even look at trying to improve the design, but it had a lot of potential. And then finally, it's quite a bulky item. The bulkiness would have been fine had it been able to quite literally carry 8 or more injector pens, perhaps even 12. That would have been pretty cool. But the fact that you can't use all the space in the container to get that lower, longer term storage temperature kind of is kind of a null point in the value now of having this bulky piece of equipment that can really perhaps hold only about four pens realistically, and keep them at a longer range temperature. And then for transportation wise, also keep in mind that the lid that doesn't have a latch is sort of just a mechanical interference squeeze. You just sort of close the lid and it squeezes into position. There's a little bit of a rubber gasket that I noticed, but in any case, just a heads up that there's no latch, and so be careful of that if you do consider using this for transportation, that your product might fall out. So maybe use a band or something to kind of secure the lid of the product, and so that it doesn't somehow accidentally shake open during transportation. So that's where I'm at. I would say I could see myself perhaps using this product if I was in an RV driving around, and there was, the RV was quite reasonably cool, and there was, the product was always in the shade, and so on and so forth. But for traveling on a plane and stuff like that, and going to a hotel room in another country, I would say this one's a bit of a stretch for me. So that's all I got for today, and I hope you found all of the information that I've shared here informative. If you like this video, if you have suggestions, feel free to send me a note or put some comments in the comments area, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Wishing you a wonderful day.